I lacked resources. I simply didn't have it. And when you lack resources, you need to become resourceful.
You have to be hungry enough to want it.
You will have your business copied hundreds of times, but the more faster you are, the more goals that you're going to reach better than anybody else.
To make money is about serving. You need to serve. Most of all, you need to serve yourself. Be the absolute best version you can be.
I was interviewing somebody by the name of Gene Simmons. Anybody know his name? Gene Simmons from a legendary rock band, Kiss. And he said to me that money wasn't the root of all evil. It was the lack of money that was the root of evil. Who agrees with that in this room? The lack of money. So how do we make money, Mike? How are we going to do that to get us out of our situation if maybe all we have is our voice?
Well, first of all, you need to find something someone wants to buy. That's the basic thing. You need to find something that people have a need for. But more important, I believe you need to find something you love doing. I used to say that there's two types of people that really gets a lot of success, and one of them I call the river people, and the other one I call the goal people. So the river people, they find their river. It could be a river within science. It could be a river within coaching, or what do I know, food. Just a river you just love to swim in. And they just want to swim in that river. They just want to, go down there early in the morning, be in that river all day long. And they love that, and they become masters in that river. And then you have the goal people. They just love to accomplish stuff. And they're also very good at it. But at some point they run out of goals. And they will lose that interest. So, to make money is about serving. You need to serve. Serve really hard. But most of all, you need to serve yourself with something you love doing. Because if you're doing something you love doing, you will have resilience, as we're talking about. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this question because I know in the room there's some very, very successful women that have started their companies. How many have kids? It is very easy to say, well, I can't start a business because I've got a family. I can't have a company because I have a family. Yet I am on the stage, Mamotake. You and I spoke yesterday. You have 3.
Yep.
3 children. Your youngest being 4.
2 human beings, not AI, not
So
dogs.
how do you find this balance?
Human beings.
Yeah. How do you find this balance? How do you go live your dream and yet still be mom? How do you do both?
First of all, you have to be intentional. You can't wake up in the morning just for the sake of breathing the same air with everybody else. You have to be intentional about your life. But nothing comes easy. And I know we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about this, we want to build businesses, but nothing comes easy. You have to be intentional about everything that you do. I'm intentional about being the best mom to my kids. I'm intentional about being successful. I'm intentional about being a black, beautiful woman. I'm intentional about everything. So you have to wake up and want to do that with your whole heart. But I hear people talk about entrepreneurship, this and that. We know how difficult it is. The struggle of building a business from scratch is something else, out of this world. And we talk about entrepreneurship in isolation from other things. There are things that are foundations that build what an entrepreneur should be. There's education. I don't want to get off this stage without touching on a very important factor, which is the kind of education that we give our kids, yet we expect them to succeed. How do we teach them still today to dissect a locust? How are they going to use that in life? We need to be intentional. Teach them about entrepreneurship. Teach them about agriculture from a very young age. That way we are creating a future that is sustainable. And being an entrepreneur means that someone in life, just one person, has to give you a chance. What we don't understand, we sit on this side of the table being successful and successes, how happy we are, this is what I have achieved. Who else have you helped to get them to the next stage for them to be successful? We need to stop being selfish and understand that if we want to create any kind of change in this world, especially in Africa, give someone a chance. Just one chance, you will change that person's destiny.
It's interesting in that we all look at entrepreneurship a little differently. I think we're all entrepreneurs. I'm confident that in your code, if you were to go all the way back, 400 ancestors on your left, moms, 400 on your right, in there were entrepreneurs. They had to sell themselves to somebody else in some way. Hey, I've got this, you have that. How do we work together? They had to create opportunities for their own family. They had to get to know people. They were becoming business owners if they liked it or not, because you are the brand. People buy you, do they not, Dr. Tony?
That is correct. We all recognize that gift that is within us. And sometimes we may feel worthless, we may feel less worthy. So let me just for a second address those who are gifted academically. When I was earning my doctorate degree in food science, I didn't know what food science really meant. But I remember my grandmother as a food trader, which brought me into the agriculture and food sciences in the first place. At 10 years of age, my uncle who raised me took me to the farm and he said, Tony, that is your plot. He's a teacher and we're talking about farming. Little did I know that my destiny was going to be tied to feeding the world. From seeing my grandmother trade in fish, in yam, and all kinds of food commodities, I didn't realize that I would finally become a scientist because of the gift of learning. If you don't work hard, you can look forward to a miserable life. And when God surrounds us with people, with good people, and you have the heart to serve, the heart of service is what brings me to this place today. Know who you are. Believe in your gifts. Your gift comes from our Maker. Your time may be delayed, but it will never be denied. When the good Lord brings people into our lives, learn to value and cherish relationships. And never think that your academic degree, especially in this environment, Nigeria, that you don't yet have a job. The entrepreneurship is in you, and the gift is from within. And let favor continue to follow you so you can fulfill what God's purpose is for your life.
Nurture relationships. Isn't that interesting? Nurture, why would you want to do that? Well, when you're around people that it sounds like have succeeded in their areas, being around them. So I wrote this down, that business is an exchange of interests. A very, very successful man, Luis, publisher and CEO in Monaco, one of the Monegasque there, he said that to me once. He's Brazilian. Partner, business is an exchange of interests. Now, on the brand building side, Alaa, how do we do that when maybe we don't have that much value or don't think we do? Do we bring value?
Of course, we have. Let me share a story with you. A story that will be inspiring to everyone. A story that took place 1 year ago. I went through 4 or 5 businesses right now, and each one of them, I have to find where our value is within. But let me give you a life story. 1 year ago, I met my partner from CEO of Fairfax International. And we were talking about the new regulations from the European Union, the CBAP regulations, preventing goods coming into Europe without having a sustainability report or a traceability report, where they want to measure the carbon footprint in any of these products before they get into the EU. So they stop what they call the carbon leakage. I have no idea what all of these terms are. I didn't know anything about traceability, sustainability, carbon, any of these things. So when he was telling me about this, and I said, okay, then the future lies in creating a traceability, a life cycle assessment for any product, in order to take it within the US, to Europe, to Africa, to any place, in food, everywhere, you need traceability for livestock, traceability for agriculture, traceability for commodities, traceability everywhere. And in order to become compliant to the new regulations, you need that kind of measurement. You need to measure. And so let's do an MRV, measurement, reporting, and validation of these carbon footprint. And you know what? 1 year of studying resulted in a company that it's a pioneering in high tech of creating the most advanced automated MRV, utilizing IoT, utilizing machine learning, utilizing computer vision, and then going to governments and say, hey, this is your solution to carbon mitigation. This is your solution to your NDC, your national determined commitment to drop your carbon emissions, your footprint, and factories. This is your solution so you can accompany to your products worldwide. So out of one talk, one regulations, you created an opportunity. And the opportunity created a tech opportunity. The tech opportunity created a demand or solved a problem for so many industries.
Mike, that's something you've always told me, is that the opportunity is always there. I said, what opportunity? The opportunity. What does that mean? The opportunity is always there.
The opportunity is always there when you're ready to see it. That's what I usually say, when you're ready to see it. But you will never be ready if you haven't really given the full of you. So I'll give you a good example. So I've built one company and it took me 7 years to make it a $400 million company. But I wasn't ready to make it a $400 million company after 7 years. So it took me 6 years to barely make it to 100 million. And it took us 1 year to go to another 400. So the opportunities are always there, but I learned that, to really see them, you gotta wake up and you gotta take an intentional decision of be the absolute best version you can be. And that is an active choice you have constantly. Like you have a choice to wake up and say, all right, who am I going to create today? Because you can create who you want to be. Today I'm going to be the most persistent, I'm not going to swear, but the most persistent person in the room. Today I'm going to be the most kind person in the room. Today I'm going to be the wildest opportunity chaser in the room. Today, and when you do that, opportunities will arise. So when you decide to, for example, many people, they come to me and they say, oh my God, it looks like you spend a lot of hours in the gym. I don't. I just spend it consistently every day, 1 hour, and opportunity arises of getting a little bit of muscles. And the same goes in with your sales calls. Like you do sales calls every single day, and if you just do 10 extras or a little bit extra and do it on a consistent basis, opportunities will arise. So if you are waking up and you go absolute hardcore at it, I'll guarantee you will have 10x opportunities in your life, everywhere.
How many hours a week do you think you committed to build your business or to become an expert in your area or specialty? Elon Musk was asked how many hours he commits. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this, but he said 60, 80 hours a week, 80 to 100. I mean, it doesn't end. And when you're in the early days of building your company, whatever that business is, you must become obsessed with it, or you will not succeed. I see people approach me all the time with ideas, and I ask them, okay, tell me about your day. Tell me about your day. How does your day begin? Because people say they run out of time. I remember complaining to an adopted uncle of mine, and I was complaining to him about time once. He calls me Dust. He's like, Dust. I've never run out of 1 minute to do the things I really want to do. Yeah. Don't tell me you didn't find time. You'll always have a minute left, and I see my entrepreneurs on the stage. How does your day begin? I'm going to start with you, Mea. Tell me about your day. How does your day begin?
So I just to go back to one of your other questions, I was putting in about 100 hours of work for about 10 years straight. I ended up getting burnt out during that process as well, prior to commencing a PhD in governance and public policy. So I actually started my business out of a need. like Dr. Bello, I would say never despise small beginnings. While I had finished my second master's in global business, I was having a really difficult time actually getting a job. So I had to figure out, how am I actually going to get any income? And so what I did was, as I share with you all, is to leverage the skill set that I had developed in university, from founding a nonprofit that I started, where I was doing work with people in the homeless community and also focusing on youth education. So through that nonprofit, I was managing everything from sponsorships, fundraising, events, marketing, even developing it from the ground up. So when it came to my business, I actually packaged all of the skills that I had, and I developed my consultancy. So as I would say, throughout that process of even starting the business, it was a struggle. I had 2 masters, and I was 25 years old, couldn't get a job. And so I actually ended up getting a job where I was getting paid $7 an hour. It was a security job. I got that job because Beyonce had a concert in New Orleans, and I wanted to go front row, but I couldn't afford the tickets. So I ended up getting the job as a security. And because I was actually the most educated security, most people had a high school education only, I ended up becoming the security for all of the celebrities, the governor, even for our former quarterback for the New Orleans Saints, Drew Brees, and his family. So, as I said, never despise small beginnings. You might be in a situation where you're working at a company and you feel like, oh, maybe people are looking down on you. People were actually quite surprised that I was working there, but not me, because I was willing to put in that work, just like I was willing to put in the 100 hours a week to hone my craft. So all it takes is to, as my panelists have shared, to fill a gap, leverage your skill sets, and continue to be consistent. Don't expect anything to happen overnight. It's taken me over 15 years in business to reach this level of success where I'm here today addressing you all.
Mastery. I don't know if you are reading a good book, but there's a book I read this summer, and a very, very successful multi-billion founder of multiple companies turned me on to it. It's called Mastery. And it's a rather long book, but it talks about the masters around the world that have succeeded at the top of their trade, top of their craft, how they do it. And not all of them were handed on the way up. They had to outwork others to become an expert. And mastery takes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of dedication. But let's kind of start a little basic fundamentals. I had this opportunity to interview this gentleman who is the owner of a company and founder called Hobby Lobby, big company in the United States. And he started the business, it was very simple. He sold picture frames, literally, just picture frames. Well, the demand of picture frames became so much that he opened a second location, and then a third, and then a fourth. By the time I interviewed him, his net worth was $18 billion. Niches brings riches. Focus on a niche, you become the best at it. You become the industry's expert, the regional expert. But it starts with that, the niche, because there's so many ideas. It's broad, there's so many things. But I've heard many times that it comes down to passion. What are you passionate about? Now, there are things I'm passionate about. I know James is going to be one of our performers. He is an incredible artist. He's a DJ, Afrobeats performer. He took a hobby as something he enjoyed and has turned it into a successful career. So Hasan, how do we do that? How do we take something and say, well, I'm not good at these other things, but I'm really good at this? How do we turn that, Hasan, into a company, into an idea that others want?
Yeah. So talking about passion, Hegel says nothing ever great happens without passion. So the prerequisite for success is being passionate about what you have in mind. Just I'd like to open a quotation talking about niches. Young entrepreneurs and people who have their own startups cannot compete with already established businesses if they want to aim at addressing the masses. Because you can't achieve economies of scale. Your cost per unit is very high. So with cost leadership approach, this won't happen. That's why you have to work on a limited target audience. Passion for me is accompanied with a business with purpose. So when our business flourishes, we have to think about sustainability, the sustainable development goals which I want to aim at, which are compatible with the nature of the business, the life on earth, life underwater, the climate action. So this is the purpose which our business has to serve. So if you have developed power and you don't use it responsibly, then you will lose this power. And this is never contradictory with achieving business profits. So we have to always be concerned about the profit, prosperity, it's the first P, about the planet, and about the people. So, and the sweet spot is the point of intersection of these three circles. And this keeps us passionate about our businesses when we work on the purpose of this business as well.